So it's interesting sometimes when you have a narcissist that you catch with a new supply and you tell them to choose, like choose between me and this other person, like make a choice. You oftentimes see a narcissist that will stay in the gap and kind of waffle back and forth of like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to choose. I don't know what I actually want, and they'll go back and forth being like, not sure. And it puts you in this place of like, well, am I not even good enough? Like you've been with me with multiple years, like you've communicated with me, you've been in this relationship, in this marriage for multiple years, and now you're not sure what is going on. And the narcissist oftentimes does this in a way of trying to figure out how can I actually work through this situation to have my cake and eat it too? How can I actually get to the place where I'm getting and doing the things that I want and still have this safety and security of the image piece? You see, the majority of narcissists are more concerned about their image than they are anything else. Typically, the image of how they view themselves in their perspective circles. So that might be in their religious organization, it might be with their family, it might be with their coworkers, it might be just with people in general. Sometimes as well, a narcissist is looking at how they are viewed inside their mind. Now, this is kind of weird in one sense, but it's like, okay, if I can justify this is how I'm being viewed, or I can justify this is what's going on, then I don't really care what other people have to say. I'm just going to keep doing it because I know I'm right, I know everybody else is wrong, etc., etc. So sometimes you get to this place where the narcissist is concerned of their image. They're like, how do I keep this image and how do I continue to access the new supply, the next person, the affair partner, whatever it might be? What do I need to do? And a lot of times, narcissists will continue to manipulate and continue to drag out the situation, making people believe that there's a level of substantial change that's happening when there's actually zero change happening at all. You might be at this place where the narcissist has said, I'm going to get help, I'm going to leave this person, I'm going to block this person, and they never do. And it ends up like just stringing you along thinking that they're going to eventually make the choice that you're more important than the other person, but they haven't. Like, what is going on here? So, a narcissist is typically going to want to keep anybody and everybody in their life as other versions of supply for themselves. This is why a lot of times you'll have a narcissist that will be friends with all of their exes, that will still have the door open to a lot of exes so they could go back to those people, so they could interact, and so they have this person in the wings of if something goes down between you and them, you leave, etc., they have someone they can go back to. Narcissist wants to always keep the door open. So when you get to this place where you're like, hey, I found out about this and you haven't left and you're still figuring out what are you going to do, you're telling them to make a choice, a lot of times you'll see them not make a choice at all. Now, however, they're going to have the times where people do make a choice, where he's like, okay, I'm done with you. I'm just moving on. I'm going to the next person. You're like, how could you do this? He's already done this. You need to understand this. He's already made the choice to be with this person apart from you while being in the relationship. This is where people get confused and they're like, but like he should choose me because he's been with me for so long. But he already hasn't been choosing you. He already has been lying to you, disrespecting you, cheating on you. He's already gone to the next person. The only fact that he's still in this relationship typically is because there's still some level that's serving him in the moment. Not serving him of like making him feel great and everything like that, but typically because it's making him look a certain way in society, in the reality that he's currently living in. You'll find a lot of times when you try to get a narcissist to make a decision about you and another person, a lot of times they will run away from the conversation. Like they won't even engage with it. They'll gaslight, they'll manipulate, they'll put it back on you because they don't want to actually make a decision that puts them at the center of being wrong in one relationship. So like there was times where I would be in the middle of relationships and I didn't want to make a decision. As a result, I would switch my mind over into victim mode. Like I was the victim in this situation. I was the victim in this relationship. So as a result, like whatever transpired or whatever happened, it wasn't my fault. Like it was their fault because they made the decision. They left me. And I would run these different narratives in my head to be able to justify the fact that it wasn't me, that I wasn't the one that did this, that it wasn't my fault, but it had to be someone else's fault. You see, a narcissist is going to try to get out of any type of accountability, responsibility, however they can. Whether that's blaming you, whether that's projecting on someone else, or whether that's just switching to victim mode of saying, okay, it's not my fault, it's someone else's fault because of X, Y, and Z. I've said before, and I've done a couple videos too about a narcissist rock bottom. Like, I don't think a lot of narcissists have a genuine rock bottom. They have a bottom that they end up pivoting. And that pivot ends up being something where a narcissist gets to the bottom and is like, oh, now I'm the victim. Now it's my fault. Like, now it's not my fault. It's someone else. It can't be my fault. And so there's a pivot that happens at the bottom. You're going to see this a lot of times. And when you try to bring this up, like, hey, I've caught you in this. This is what's going on. Okay, well, you're the one that made me cheat. You're the one that made me do this. You're the one that made me. And oftentimes it gets put back on you as it being your fault. You're the problem. You're the one that did this. You're the one that caused this. You're the one that prompted this. And it'll start to mess with your head. It'll start to confuse you and make you think that you did something to push him towards this other woman. So when you come up and you're like, okay, well, you need to make a choice. And he's like, I don't know. You're like, well, why in the world would you not make a choice? Narcissist isn't going to want to make a choice, because if he does, it's going to show that he is bad in his mindset. It is bad and he's done something wrong in one of the relationships. Either he leaves the affair partner or this new supply and he comes back to you, then he's done that person dirty because he's made a promise to that person, or he does the same thing to you and goes with the supply, and then he's done something wrong because he's broken that promise. Like, these are things that I've learned about and that I've had to work on eradicating in my life, like years after these relationships, after past affairs, past relationships, realizing that at times there was different things that I was still either holding on to or subconsciously had still promised to previous partners, of like things that I had to go through and actually release and figure out like how to be able to eradicate the promises, the lies, the things that were there still at times binding me back to another person. Now, like, these things are strong, like they are tied really, really deep. And until someone does a lot of deep inner work, they're still typically going to be there. This is why it's so hard when a narcissist is with a new supply or cheating and you tell them, hey, like, go no contact with that person. Majority of the time he doesn't want to, and majority of the time he never will. Or he'll just hide it better, typically. Because like, he's not going to actually have this change of heart because you're telling him to do something. Now, you might see this towards the end of the relationship when you actually lay down like a hard line of like, if you do not do this, then I'm going to leave you. Then two things are typically going to happen. Either one, he's going to go ahead and leave you and go with that new supply, or he's going to magically cut off that new supply, magically cut off the things that you don't want him to do, and start being back to, hey, this is the relationship I want. This is who I want. And then you see it start all over again. Sometimes you're going to have too, where you discover the new supply, where you discover him cheating and he completely cuts that person off. And you're like, oh my gosh, he's changed. Everything's better. But sometimes it's just because you found out. Sometimes it's because you disrupted the high of getting away with the lie. And a lot of times you'll have a narcissist where they're very excited and it's an adrenaline rush, not just to have a new supply, but to have the high of lying to you about it, of getting away with it. And once you've caught on to it, it's like, well, that's no fun anymore. So let me go back to the relationship, repair that enough, and then start up another one that I can lie about and get the high off of that. So you're going to see a lot of times narcissists that will go back and forth and trying to manipulate your perception to be able to get a high off of what they do. So anyways, part of this is just helping you understand, like, when you talk through this aspect of the new supply and the narcissist having to make a choice, sometimes they'll just go to the new supply and be like, forget you. But a lot of times they'll stay in limbo land. And they'll keep you in limbo land for a long period of time, because if they can keep you confused, then that means they can keep you stuck. Like, if a narcissist will not give you a straight answer, typically they won't because they're liars. But if they can't give you a straight answer, it's to keep you stuck in the relationship, stuck not knowing what to do, stuck not to know what direction you need to make and what direction you need to choose for you. So if he can keep you stuck in that, then you will stay in the relationship and he can have his cake and eat it too. Be with someone else, be with you. It won't matter because there'll still be this level of emotional, mental, physical, sexual connection between the two of you and the other person that keeps you stuck in the relationship. If you're at the place where you're noticing this and you're seeing this as being a problem in your life and you want to be free mentally and emotionally, you might be struggling being like, I want to be free, I'm just not sure how. I'd invite you to go to claritychallenge.net. And this is a 45-day challenge that we put together that helps you rewire your mindset and work on helping change the trajectory of where you're going to continue to go, by helping you rewire the story you believe and by ultimately setting you up for a place of being in power, certainty, freedom, clarity of who you actually are and how to be free, how to separate mentally and emotionally, how to separate the facts from the feelings so you can actually move forward in knowing, hey, this is the right focus I need to have to move forward to be the person that I actually want to be. If you want to check that out, you can go to claritychallenge.net. Would love to be able to help assist you with that and just breaking free mentally and emotionally. We've had a lot of people that have broken free, but they have to put in the work. They have to put in the work, and you have to put in the work for you, investing back into you with your time, with your energy, changing the thought process. Otherwise, this cycle or going back to a toxic person will continue to happen over and over and over again. So go to claritychallenge.net today.